So when OnePlus announced the prices of the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro in India, most of us would have heaved a sigh of relief. The prices were really great, and I am more surprised at the prices of the OnePlus 8 Pro than the OnePlus 8. The OnePlus 8 Pro at rupees 54,999 is just rupees 1,000 more than the OnePlus 70 Pro's launch price last year, and for that you get a whole load of extra features. And if you compare the prices, with US dollars, then the OnePlus 8 Pro's price, Indian price converted to US price, would be around $720, and in the US the phone is actually selling for $899. That's a price difference of 25%. Now that got me wondering if the Samsung Galaxy S20 series, which has gone up in price now after the GST hike and starts at rupees 70,000, is actually that much of a better phone than the OnePlus 8 Pro. Well, I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone, and that's what I'm going to find out in this video. Also, we have some incredible Instagram posts and a great Telegram community as well. Links to both the social communities should be there in the description below. Now, before we start off with the OnePlus 8 Pro and compare it to the S20 series, I want to make a proper disclaimer out here, is that we haven't used the OnePlus 8 Pro yet, and most of our thoughts in this video are preliminary thoughts based on the specs and whatever we have seen of international reviews. I would strongly urge for you guys to wait for a proper full-fledged comparisons with physical units, because that will give you a complete idea of whether you should go for the OnePlus 8 series or the S20 series. Until then though, I really wanted to have an open discussion with you guys to figure out which series would actually be better. So with that out of the way, let's get started with the displays on both these phones. Now, both these phones come with AMOLED panels. The S20 series has something called the dynamic AMOLED, and of course the OnePlus 8 series, the OnePlus 8 Pro, comes with fluid AMOLED. Now, both these phones have curved displays. Having said that, the curvature on the S20 series is so minimal that it almost feels like a flat display, and I love that. I loved using the S20 Plus and the S20 Ultra primarily because the curves don't feel that much of a curve and it almost feels like a flat display. On the other hand, from what I've been seeing on international reviews and elsewhere, is that the OnePlus 8 Pro actually has a very steep curve, almost to an extent that it could be called a waterfall curvature, and that is not necessarily my kind of thing. Having said that, when you're looking at the display resolution, both the OnePlus 8 Pro and the S20 series can go up to QHD+, and both of them come with high refresh rate 120Hz panels. But the OnePlus 8 Pro can do 120Hz at full resolution, which is at QHD+, whereas the S20 series tops out at FHD+. So that definitely gives a point to the OnePlus 8 Pro. Also, the OnePlus 8 Pro has a higher max peak brightness, and apart from that, the OnePlus 8 Pro also has more display made performance records compared to the S20 series. And when you look at the placement of the hole punch camera on the S20 series, it is in the center, bang in the center, and on the OnePlus 8 Pro, it's to the left, and that I think looks better because when you're playing games, it completely gets blocked out and there is absolutely no distraction whatsoever. So at least based on the specs and the extraneous performance tests, it will be safe for us to say that the OnePlus 8 Pro might have a better display than the S20 series. So design is a subjective topic, so I'll keep it short. The OnePlus 8 Pro definitely comes in a whole host of colors. I really like the glacial green color. The S20 series, on the other hand, is a more of a somber look, but it does definitely look elegant. The one thing I like about the S20 and the S20 Plus specifically is the fact that both are extremely thin frames and they are slim phones. Therefore, the in-hand feel and the ergonomics are really great. Having said that, the S20 Ultra, and I've told you guys before as well, despite the fact that I have big hands, the S20 Ultra is not that easy to hold and use with one hand. Now, I haven't used or felt the OnePlus 8 Pro yet in my hands, so I will reserve my judgment for later. There are a couple of other things that we will have to take a look at. Is one, both the phones, actually the OnePlus 8 Pro and the S20 series, come with IP68 certification, so that's a great point for both the phones. But the OnePlus 8, this is the first time that a OnePlus phone comes with IP certification, and that definitely gives it an advantage. Also, apart from that, the OnePlus 8 Pro has that excellent alert slider, which is not available on the S20 series. Although all said and done, I would still hold off on my verdict on the design. Let's call this round a draw. So we all know by now the OnePlus 8 Pro comes with Snapdragon 865 with 8 or 12 gigs of RAM and correspondingly 128 or 256 GB of storage. The S20 series, on the other hand, again comes with 8 and goes up to 12 GB of RAM. From the S20, the S20 Plus, and the S20 Ultra, which actually gets the 12 GB of RAM, and the storage variant is capped at 128 GB. But you do get space for adding a memory card up to 1 TB. So when it comes to storage, I will go with the S20 series for sure. But when it comes to brute performance, the Snapdragon 865 inside the OnePlus 8 Pro should definitely be a better performer than the S20 series, which comes with Exynos 990 in India. That is the very important factor out here. Now, I have tested the iQOO 3 and the Realme X50 Pro to know that Snapdragon 865 is a top class performer and it is better than the Exynos 990. You have the benchmarks in front of you for proof. So when you're looking at the performance differences of the Exynos 990 against the Snapdragon 865, the Snapdragon 865 is definitely better, and I for one can say that the OnePlus 8 Pro, even without me having tested it, should definitely be better in performance compared to the S20 series, whether it's gaming performance or daily performance, both. Now that could be different if OnePlus messed around somewhere badly, but I doubt that would happen considering the fact that OnePlus has always been leading the pack of Android phones when it comes to fluid and fast performance. On the software front, I can objectively and subjectively say that OxygenOS on OnePlus is definitely slightly better, if not entirely better than One UI. And OxygenOS actually has won, the best software award 2 years in a row in Mr. Phone Awards. So there's no doubt in my mind that OxygenOS is actually one of the best software implementations of Android out there. Now, while One UI is great on the S20 series and I've been using it extensively on the S20 Ultra, I think that the Samsung has made a whole bunch of improvements and it is way better than what used to be TouchWiz before. Having said that, OnePlus's OxygenOS is extremely minimal in look and it keeps it close to stock Android is what I like, and plus you get a lot of extra features that are actually pretty useful as well. So, between the software, I think that I am siding with OxygenOS out here. While we can talk all about the new 48 megapixel Sony IMX689 sensor on the OnePlus 8 Pro or the 48 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, or you can talk all about the 64 MP camera on the S20 Plus or the 108 MP camera on the S20 Ultra. You can talk all about these specs, but none of that matters until and unless you take a look at the image algorithm and what kind of processing is happening in the background and what the final output looks like. And for that you will have to wait for our camera comparison. But until then, I want to highlight a few points with respect to just the camera specs alone. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is that the S20 Ultra definitely has an edge when you talk about telephoto and zoom. Even at 10x, the S20 Ultra's pictures are absolutely sharp and crisp. But is it worth that extra 40,000 rupees more is something that we still have to analyze and find out. And while I know that the S20 and the S20 Plus can do 30x digital zoom, so can the OnePlus 8 Pro, and the OnePlus 8 Pro has an advantage over the S20 and the S20 Plus because the S20 and the S20 Plus can only do 3x hybrid zoom, whereas the OnePlus 8 Pro can actually do 3x optical lossless zoom. Now, when I'm talking about the S20 and the S20 Plus, they can do hybrid zoom only because optically the lens that is attached to it can only go up to 1.07x. So that's something that we found out when we did our camera comparison. Now, when it comes to Gcam support on Exynos based S20 series, we might not see an update anytime soon. Having said that, the OnePlus 8 Pro definitely could come with Gcam support for sure, and we've known that Snapdragon processors generally get Gcam support soon. So yeah, that is one thing that we can all look out for, considering the fact that it could produce better results than the stock camera. Now, obviously, I'm not picking a winner when it comes to camera, so we'll have to wait for our camera comparison until then. So yeah, this one's also a draw. As for the batteries, the OnePlus 8 Pro comes with a 4510 mAh unit inside, and it comes with 30 watt warp charge T wired charging. Plus, this time around, OnePlus has finally added wireless charging, and it is the fast wireless charging kind, which can go up to 30 watts of speed again. So that's great. Plus, it supports Qi standard wireless charging as well. Now, here's the most important thing to note is that the Samsung phones can also do wireless charging, but they top out at 15 watt, and the S20 Plus, S20 and the S20 Ultra can go up to a fast wired charging of 25 watt, but the S20 Ultra can go even higher, up to 45 watt, but you have to buy the charger separately. Now, charging speeds obviously need to be tested, but on pure specs alone, the OnePlus might have a little bit of an advantage here. Now, when it comes to battery life, we all know for a fact that Qualcomm's Snapdragon 865 is definitely more power efficient compared to Exynos chips. And this is true for even within the S20 series, because the S20s that are sold abroad come with Snapdragon 865, and they generally have better performance compared to the Snapdragon, to the Exynos 990 variant in India when it comes to batteries, because battery performance is more power efficient. And we've tested that, we've known that from tests before as well. By that logic alone, the OnePlus 8 Pro should have better battery life than the S20 series. Having said that, without having properly tested and found out those details, it's too soon to tell. But we can safely assume to a certain extent that battery performance should be better on the OnePlus 8 Pro compared to the S20 series. We're at the end of my analysis, and there are many factors that we haven't discussed yet. For example, we haven't spoken about the speaker quality or the haptic performance or the earpiece quality. For that, we'll have to review the phone. Regardless, just the price difference of the S20 series compared to the OnePlus 8 Pro makes me believe, whichever way you look at it, that the OnePlus 8 Pro could be a better buy than the S20 series. Now, even if the untested parameters, for example, the camera or the audio performance, is 80% as good on the OnePlus 8 Pro compared to the S20 series, I for sure would pick OnePlus over Samsung, because in certain parameters such as performance, software, display and battery, we already might have a lead with the OnePlus, even without us having used the phone. Now, I'm definitely jumping the gun out here without having used the phone, so I'll ask you guys to be cautious and don't take this as my final verdict. This is just a preliminary thought process, almost like a first look, first thoughts of the phone itself. I have used the S20 series, and or the S20 Plus and the S20 Ultra are absolutely great phones, reviews of which are already live on our channel. You should go check them out. However, there are so many reasons why the OnePlus 8 Pro feels like a better device than the S20 series, especially because there were times when people were craving for high-end flagship features like IP rating and wireless charging to come to the OnePlus 8 series, and this year it actually has come to the OnePlus 8 series, and that has bridged the gap between the S20 series and the OnePlus 8 series, making it a far more interesting option, especially at that price point, at that base price point of 55,000, which Samsung hasn't managed to breach yet. So yeah, so what do you guys think of our analysis of the OnePlus 8 Pro compared to the S20 series? Do you guys agree with it, not agree with it? Let's take it to the comment section below. Until next time, this is Ershad from Mr. Phone signing off. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.